All right, we're continuing our video on polynomials with leading coefficients and multiplicities and that sort of thing. So go watch part 1 if you haven't already. Part 1, I did this part. Here comes part 2. And so on this one, they've given us 6 graphs and 6 equations. They told us to match. Okie dokie. So on this first one, here's what I see. I see that it's passing through an x a negative 2, so we're going to say x minus a negative 2 becomes x plus 2. Passing through means it's going to have a multiplicity of 1. I don't need to write that, but I thought I would just because I said so. I don't know. And then we're bouncing. I see a bounce at negative 1, so that becomes an x plus 1. It could be 2, it could be 4, it could be 6, it could be 8. We're going to go as simple as possible because they didn't tell us otherwise. And so this would have a multiplicity of 2, so that is x plus 1 squared. I also see that it goes here, x minus 2, because it's passing through. And so my function, f of x, would equal something like that, except we don't know, there might be an a value here. What we would have to do, and actually we can kind of tell, we haven't talked about whether a is positive or negative, and we haven't talked about if there's a different scaling of this graph. Notice, here's my, my y-intercept right there. What I see is that it's at 0, negative 2. And if I multiplied all this out, what I would get, my constant would be a 2 times a 1. Notice 1 squared is still 1 times a negative 2. That would give me a negative 4. But it's actually, do you see what I'm discussing here? If I plugged in, let me try that, let me say that a little better. If I plugged in 0, I don't like orange. If I plugged in 0, that's a 0, that's a 0, that's a 0, then I end up getting 2 times 1 times negative 2. And so at 0, so my f of 0 would be equal to negative 4a. If I plug in 0 in all those places. And, but my f of 0 is actually negative 2. So my a value here, I know to be 1/2. So let's look back at our equations here. I need, that got a little messy. Let's see if I can clean that up. Oh, I cleaned up too much. Okay. An x plus 1, I need a 1/2. I need it to be positive. I need an x plus 2, x minus 2, and an x. So here is what I see right there. That one, so this first graph right here is going to be E. Let me make sure I agree with that. Plus 2 and a minus 2, and then a plus 1 squared. Yep, that looks good. Okay, next one, we have a bend here. So that's going to have an odd multiplicity bigger than 1, and then we pass through right here. So I see that this one, Schoology thinks it's, or Notability thinks it's smarter than me. It is not. This is going to have an x plus 2 cubed. Once again, it could be to the 5th or the 7th or the 9th or whatever, but we're going to go as simple as we can, especially because all the possibilities they gave us was as simple as they could be. Okay, and then we have an x minus 1 that just shows up once. Once again, we should consider the fact that there might be an a value here. Let's check and see. If I do f of 0, that would be a times, well, 2 cubed is 8 times a negative 1, so this would become a negative 8. Well, this is equal to, notice in my graph, f of 0 is actually equal right there to 8. So my a value is negative 1. I also knew that because it's going down on both sides there. So it's an even, it's an even function that ends up in both directions going down. So that tells me that my leading coefficient needed to be negative. Okay, so that got a little messy, but let's see which one we want to pick. I see an a plus 2 cubed and an x minus 1 and a negative out front. This one right here is a. All right, cruising right along. Now, actually, hit pause. See if you can do these last 3 without me. So I will keep going, but this is your chance to see what you know and then go back and double check. So hit pause. Okay, welcome back. That was fun. So this one I see my f of x or y or g of x or whatever is, I see an x minus 1, so this becomes minus a negative is plus 1 squared. I see a bounce there, and then I see that this is at 2, x minus 2. It's negative, so I would bet that there's a negative. Once again, I forgot to write the a. When I plug in 0, I get f of 0 would be equal to 0, that's 1 squared is 1, times negative 2 is negative 2a. But the value that they gave me right here was 2. So a is equal to negative 1. So I'm looking for the equation negative x plus 1 squared. Oh, there it is. Okay. All of a sudden I couldn't see what was in front of my face. That's this one right here. So this is the answer C. Okay, here now I see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. It looks like we've got a positive leading coefficient since it's, that looks terrible. Okay, since it's doing something like that, I'll go away. All right, sorry. So here is what I see. I see y is equal to, I have so x plus 2 times x minus 1 times x, I lied. That's a plus 1. If I was doing this one and this one, I'm going in order, just left to right, for no good reason. You can write them in whatever order you like, but even that I wasn't consistent. My bad. Let me try again. X minus 1 times x minus 2. Oh, maybe I should say f of x. Because now we can plug in 0, f of 0, and I keep forgetting to write my a. So when I put in 0 here, this becomes that goes to 0, that goes to 0, that goes to 0, that goes to 0. So I have a negative times a negative times a positive times a positive. I was moving that way. I don't know why. I see positive 4. So I have 4a is equal to 4. Okay, so a is equal to 1. So I need x plus 2 times x minus, okay, that's this guy. And this one is D. Here we have 2 bounces, and so this one is going to be equal to f of x is, oh, look at me, I'm writing down the a. Haha. X plus 1 squared times x minus 2 squared. I see that I have something like that already here at b. So this value is b. We can double check. If I plug in 0, I'm going to get a negative 2 squared is 4, and so a is just 1. All right, last one of these. I see f of x is equal to x plus 2, and that has a bend, so that's cubed, times an x minus 2, just to the first power. When I plug in 0, so f of 0, I get, look, I remembered it once and I couldn't remember it again. Here's my a value. I get a times 8 times, put in 0, negative 2. And so this is negative 16a is equal to, well, it should be equal to negative 8, because that's this point right here. So a is equal to 1/2. So my final answer for this one would be f of x is equal to 1/2 x plus 2 cubed times x minus 2. Let's see if that was one of our answer choices. It sure is. It's in a different order, but that doesn't matter. So that's this one. This is F, and life is good. Okay. Last thing that they asked us to do is they said sketch a cubic graph with 3 real zeros, 2 different x-intercepts, and a negative leading coefficient. Okay, so it could have, this is saying there's 3 real zeros. That means, like, back over here, we have 4 real zeros. We had negative 1 that showed up twice, and we had positive 2 that showed up twice. So this one would only have two x-intercepts here and here, but it has 4 real zeros. Okay, so notice it would, if we FOILed it all out, it would end up being x to the 4th. There's 4 zeros, it's just that 2 of them both happened twice. In this one, they're saying 3 real zeros, 2 different x-axis, x-intercepts, not axis. And so that would look more like this one right here, where it's going to have 2 places that it hits the x-axis, but it's got 3 zeros. So you need a bounce somewhere. Actually, that's exactly the right thing, because a negative leading coefficient would do something like that also. So you could do, you need 2 zeros, and you need a bounce somewhere. What had they done? And we need to end up going down. So we're going to start at the top. Let's bounce here and go like that, just so that it looks, it could have also looked like this. Oh, I did the exact same thing. I didn't want to. I wanted to be different. I'm going to be different. We're going to pass through here and then bounce on that one. So it's one of those ideas on that one. Okay, so then this last one, sorry about the mess. This last one says, actually that's bothering me. This last one says sketch 2 different examples of a quartic, that means it's degree 4, with 4 real zeros, 2 different x-intercepts, and a positive leading coefficient. So what happens is we can only hit the x-axis 2 times, and it doesn't really matter where you do it. And a positive leading coefficient, if it's quartic, if it's an even degree, that means it's going to start positive and end positive. So one option is that it would bounce and bounce. Okay, if I miss the point, I just make the point bigger. That would work. Or what it could do is that we could take a point and we could bend. So we could bend here and then just pass through that one over there. So I'm trying and be like, here's this, and there's, okay, well, anyway, something like that. And then it just passes right through. So those are 2 examples. They both had a positive leading coefficient, and they only hit the x-axis 2 different times, but they had 4 real zeros. So good luck. I hope that was not too confusing, and let me know if you have questions.